Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Show. And today we are talking with a staple of the DC comedy scene, a comedian who's been wowing crowds since 2012 with his uproarious and uncompromising brand of humor, tackling a topical scope ranging vastly from dating to mental illness and their common overlap. His comedic stylings have allowed him to work at every premier club in DC and Baltimore. He has no intention of trying to be famous elsewhere, enhancing his parochial appeal at home. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very funny and the very talented Petey Steele. What's up, Petey?
Hey, Maurice, thanks so much for that wonderful intro. Did you write that?
Actually, I stole some of it from Facebook, Petey.
Okay, good. Because I was just checking because I wrote that, in fact. That was my bio, I think, for the Comedy Loft.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what?
All
All true stuff. I think I met you, Petey, probably. Heck, man, this was when Ralph Cooper had Awesome Thursdays Comedy Night at RFD in Washington. And it was probably, Petey, it's probably like 2013. I think I met you in 2013 at Ralph's place at RFD in Washington. And of course, from that point, we always run into each other, at one point or another on the DC comedy scene. And so, yeah, that intro is accurate. Very accurate. That's who you are, dude. 100%. I've seen up close and personal.
Oh, great. Thanks. I'm glad people agree.
As I mentioned, RFD in Washington. I got to say this, Petey. I thought that Awesome Thursdays Comedy Night was the best freaking open mic in Washington, D.C. I mean, by far. I mean, when you went in there, dude, you felt like it was a real comedy show. And I don't think we've had anything since that time. Man, what's your opinion of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's like
we got a lot of good. It was great. Mics. It was very uproarious. It was
We've got a lot of good open mics now, Petey.
Yeah, it was a thing where you had like Tony Ford.
Yeah, I think, Petey, you're somewhat delayed.
Maurice, I can't hear you now.
Yeah, I think you're somewhat delayed, Petey. I don't know if it's your Wi-Fi or not, but you're lagging a little bit. So we're gonna let Petey see if he can. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with Petey Steele, comedian from Washington, D.C., who's been doing his thing since 2012. And this pandemic has kind of slowed not just Petey down, all of us comics down. We can't really do what we want to do. Petey, how's it going over there? So Petey's still working on his equipment there. But, yeah, the pandemic's got all of us kind of slowed down right now. So it's just one of those things where we're relegated to Zoom and podcasts and things of that nature. And then, you got to figure out how to swim in these Wi-Fi waters, because it becomes pretty difficult, especially if you're my age. I'm like 56. I don't get it. The only reason I'm even doing this show is because of my kids. They were able to help me get up and running, and so thank goodness. But it's not an easy world, as Petey is still working on his equipment over there. And Petey's definitely younger than me, but not by a ton. I mean, older folks are just having a billy goat of a time swimming in this world of Wi-Fi and technology and so forth. It's just crazy business is what it is. But we are talking with Petey Steele, Washington, D.C. comedian. And Petey, how's it going over there? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you a little staticky.
Yeah, it's
Can you hear clear?
it's
Okay.
you're slightly delayed, maybe by a couple of seconds. Did you get any improvement, Petey? We're going to keep working on this, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you, you don't want to miss DC comedian Petey Steele on the Maurice Brown Show. We're going to keep working on this Wi-Fi. Like I said, this is a different deal. It's a different deal. My deal is like I've discovered in 2020 that I need to fire Alexa. Okay. Hey Marcus, what's up, man? So Marcus Proud, you're saying what if Petey is just sitting real still and it's not the Wi-Fi? Well, probably not, Marcus, because Petey is a mover. He doesn't like sitting around and just standing in front of the microphone and not moving. That's not Petey. Petey, how's it going? Are you able to pick me up now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can. You're kind of like
you hear me?
still going in and out a little bit. And okay, Petey, just how about now, Petey? Can you hear me?
In and out.
Still going in and out a little bit, Petey.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay.
I think the
All right.
what's that, bro?
I'll hold this phone super steady. I don't know if it's my thing or your thing.
Yeah, it's kind of really hard to tell. It's just one of those things.
I don't know if it's my,
hey, Petey,
I have 5G here. I don't know if it's my connection. You're having a difficult thing, or I don't know.
Yeah, well, 5G scares yeah, but hey, can you try your laptop? That might work better.
Ooh, I don't have a laptop on me. I had one till earlier today, and I gotta get that. So this is very bad timing, unfortunately.
Well, it's okay, Petey. I've had some guests on before that just used their iPhone. I mean, we can definitely work it out. It should clear up here pretty soon. I'm pretty confident. But we are, again, ladies and gentlemen, talking with Petey Steele from Washington, D.C. We were talking about the fact that we have to do Zoom comedy now. We don't know when we're going to be back out there live doing, our stuff in clubs and bars and arenas and different types of venues. I mean, the Zoom deal is just a whole new deal. I was saying before a few moments ago that I'm going to have to Alexa's going to have to find a job if she's going to stay in my house. It's just that simple. You can't be sitting around all day, ignoring me and only talking to my kid. You can't do that. Okay. I told my daughter, you tell Alexa, you go out, you could get my clothes, take them to the cleaners on Tuesdays, mow the lawn on Saturday, and I need you to be flipping burgers at McDonald's by Monday, or you're out of here. And so she's been nice to me ever since, Alexa has. Now, I don't even have to make any more requests. I walk in the room, and she's giving me suggestions. Maurice, a little Luther Vandross. There you go. You're starting to get it now, Alexa. Anyway, so it's difficult trying to navigate through this world of Wi-Fi. I totally get it. So we're doing our Zoom stuff, and when Petey gets everything together, I definitely want to ask him if he's got any Zoom shows coming up. Petey was telling me that he was at the DC Improv and made it to the finals in a Zoom tournament over there. Petey, are you able to pick me up yet? All right. Petey is still working on his Wi-Fi over
a little
there.
Bit. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Keep trying to work on it, Petey. We're going to keep things moving anyway and try to as you work on that, Petey, do you have any Zoom shows coming up for 2021? All right.
For 2000, I don't have any Zoom thing. I have this April at Elliott City with your old friend Chris Lawrence and Mike. That should be a good time. I don't know what night that is. but we'll have updates at my, Instagram at Steelborn DCSTEELEBORNDC. And on my podcast Counter Currents, but all of that'll come in pretty regularly.
And is that going to be live? You guys are going to be in a bar?
There, if they choose to after hearing only a little bit of my opinions.
Yeah. So is that going to be in a bar, Petey? Is that going to be live?
Yeah, I would imagine it's some. Chris and Mike have hammered out the details yet, as it's going to be an event of an entire festival that they're planning 3 months ahead of time. But usually place either in a bar or at that Ellicott City Historical Society on the top of that mountain there, the hill of overlooking historic Ellicott Street. So I would imagine one or the other.
Well, you know what, that and you got to love that, the historic, view of Ellicott City. You can't beat that, Petey. So, Petey, I know you're a DC. Petey, I know that you are strictly a DC. Petey, I know that you're a strictly DC comedy guy. Hey, Petey, how would you compare comedy in DC with other cities like New York, LA, and Atlanta?
They're more about neighborhood and kind of like respect. I've felt this way about DC of life. We're not big famous, most of us. I think we kind of like where we are. We're hungry for respect amongst ourselves, but I think we're most of us all hungry to get out into all these other places and try to sell something. There's a guy, Christian Hunt, you might know, on the scene by the former punk rocker. Well, not former punk rocker. He's still a punk rocker. Ian McKay from Fugazi, punk rock from the 80s on up. And he used to go to him and tell him, hey, I want to maybe move to LA or New York to produce a comedy show or promote a comedy show. And he looked at him and he said, no, man, this is DC. We don't promote or produce. We do things straight up. So I think that's kind of what we're on here, as opposed to a lot of these other cities where they're trying to make it super big time and maybe make it even bigger than themselves. And they're already kind of like some of the big cities in the world. They want to be worldwide famous, globally, whatever. I'm really not on that. I said that in that bio you read at the beginning, and that's true. I like being from here and making this the place to be.
Well, the thing about DC,
one comparison. There's others, but big is in my mind.
Well, the thing about DC is I found it really different from a lot of other places. I've been to Miami, I've been to San Diego, I've heard about New York, a lot about New York and Atlanta. Haven't been to those places yet, but I think DC is unique. I think the comedy is unique. I think the culture is unique. I think the music is unique. I think the slogans and the vernacular is unique. I mean, DC's got its own thing going, so it's trying to be like those other cities, but I don't really think it can be. DC's just a different place. But a lot of great comics come out of Washington, D.C. So, Petey, what do you think it is about Washington, D.C. that makes it so unique and different in your perspective from other big cities?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think other places, like I say, are just trying to do it even bigger than what they are. But I think we're a little more what you mean. Like Dean's Burning, it's gotten bigger, and we've put in a lot of work here to make it what it is. And people from other places come here to kind of like get good at comedy. It's more of like a proving ground before they make the big move. So to New York or LA, people talking about their big move. But a lot of times people, before they do that, pass through, and it's kind of like a penultimate stop where there's on your act. There's really good veteran comics that can kind of school you and show you the ropes. If you go through like the Draft House, for example, and you have Andy Klein, Randolph Terrence kind of showing you the game and telling you how you can improve this or that, and you do well there and develop an act over a period of time, and then you make if you're going to continue the journey and try to make the quote unquote big move. But I'm cool here, so that's all.
Yeah. Marcus Brown was saying that DC is the greatest training ground for comedy, which I would totally agree with. It's just so much about DC. One thing about it is,
that's right.
You don't get free laughs in DC. Okay, it's like people are just not gonna. Oh, that
you never get anywhere.
People just don't laugh just because. It's like you got to work. And whereas if I go to other places,
you're getting free laughs and you're working someplace. You're doing comedy. Go to Capitol Hill. Not now, but pre last Wednesday.
Right. Well, like I said, I know in Miami and San Diego, man, it was not nearly as difficult to get laughs. And then I've heard at New York and Atlanta and some of those places in LA, it's not as difficult either. It's like when you're in Washington D.C., dude, you got to be on your game. If you're gonna bomb. It's no question about it. You got to bring it when you're doing comedy in Washington, D.C. And it's a training ground now. If you want to go beyond and get, really good or become a name and get paid, you can learn how to do that in Washington, D.C. But you're gonna work your butt off too. And you're gonna go through a lot of tough experiences. Petey, what is the?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're gonna learn what it means to.
So, Petey, what is the worst bomb experience you've ever had in DC?
The one that comes to mind was probably the first time I went up there at the Blue Banana over in Petworth by the Looking Glass. And I remember going up there. I had not done comedy for a while. So like I mentioned in my bio, I started 2012. That's more or less true. 2 years prior, I'd done it about 9 times. I did very well. I knew comedy was I was going to devote more time to. I just didn't know when. And then I got a job and then made money. And I was like kind of depressed. And I figured, all right, fine, let's go and do this again. Some colleagues said, hey, where's a place? I heard it's Blue Banana. Let's go there. So I went up there and everybody from work came. And there just got up, tried some stuff I'd just written that I thought people would find funny, but I didn't have any of the time and any of the delivery. Some big people from DC seen what they were kind of giving me the look, and I'm thinking, oh man, I didn't do this room before. Like this was not one of my uh, go-tos the 8 or 9 times I went and did stuff and thought I killed. And I mean, you know how embarrassing that is to have everybody from work, you've just like gotten trust with and you're cool and everything. And then they go up there and they just hear you eat it. And they're like kind of just giving you a polite, like, okay, you'll get them next time sort of thing, and then ask you how's comedy going ever again until maybe like a year later after they a friend of a friend, they saw this white boy doing his act or whatever, and it sounded good. And then we got to come check you again. And that was the same thing with my family too. I didn't tell them I was doing this. They word of it from somebody else who saw me, and then they made it a point to check me out. And I could see, in a way, the evolution of my craft. Thanksgiving or Christmas, it became less like, oh yeah, you're still doing that comedy thing, to like, hey, how's comedy going?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we've come to accept this is something you do well, and we want to know about it. It wasn't just sort of like still experimenting in the, Boheme Cavern or whatever you know what I mean? You're still trying to build that rocket ship. Like, come on. Like, wise up and find a wife or something, It wasn't no more of that. It was like, oh yeah, you're legit now.
Yeah. Petey, that's the journey of a comedian. It's like, you got to eat it. You really do have to go through those bad experiences on a number of occasions to figure it out and to fight through it and try to understand what's your timing, what's your pace, what's the beat, whatever it is. But you have to go through a lot of those bad experiences. And if you can navigate through them and keep going, you can end up being a really good comic. And in DC, you have, I believe, more of those experiences probably than anywhere else because of the diversity of cultures and the mindsets of people. I mean, you don't know what kind of crowd you're going to get from night to night sometimes. And it's just like, oh man, this is really tough. It's cold. People are mad in the winter. You got to walk a long way just to get to the place and sit down and have a drink. And, you're angry because you got to go to work in the morning and all of that stuff. I mean, just mad, man, just mad. And then, it's like, I don't even know who this guy is. I never heard of him before. And I mean, I don't even get this guy. I'm not from his hood. Anyway, what's he doing here? You got to fight through a lot of different things in DC, I think, Petey, more so than anywhere else. And I'm sure, Petey, on some level, you would definitely agree with that. It's just but it's the good stuff. Comedy rooms, blocks apart, can be totally different. You got to walk a long way if you're a comic to the venue and perform. And
completely.
And it's cold. You want it. Yeah, you want to be good. You're definitely trying to be good, and you keep,
No, Marcus is exactly going back to like 2013. Going back to like 2013, I can remember doing Showtime on U Street and going right next door, and during Pure Lounge, you're going from like frat boys there for 25-cent wings to like all brothers, just sitting around with a hookah on leather couches, heckling you and waiting for you to screw so they could get a show over with. Like, they didn't even really want to show. They thought they were coming for something else. You know what I mean? It trains you.
Yeah. It definitely trains you, dude. I don't know if you've ever done the Jolly's restaurant in Alexandria, Virginia with Travis Spencer, but that place, when you said hookah bar, I mean, they're all brothers and sisters, mostly from Ethiopia, and they're in there doing the hookah thing, and they're pretty indifferent to a lot of the comics. Now,
wow.
Travis runs a great show, and he's hilarious, but the stage is really high, and you got a big room, and everybody's got their hookahs going, and they're halfway paying attention. That is a challenging room. Have you ever been over there by any chance, Petey?
I've never made colleagues. I know Travis is a good guy. I've performed with him, I think, at the Roadside Grill back when. But I haven't made it up there. I'd like to try it once, maybe it comes back and this pandemic's over with. I'm not going to no hookah bars with this respiratory thing popping off. I can tell you that. But, when it's over with, we'll do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully this thing will be over, man, by the end of the year. I'm counting on it being over and we can get back to normal. But yeah, that's one of the difficult places there when we got that hookah bar going. So look, Petey, I appreciate you being on the show. I do want to ask you one more question though before we get out of here. And we're living in a pandemic world. However, how can fans follow you, Petey, on social media or by website, or even contact you for booking?
Sure. Again, on Instagram, Steeleborn DC, STEE Petey Steele. On Facebook, just DM me. Yeah, you just, hit up those two forums. I'm not hard to find. I have the Counter Currents podcast. That's it. Counter Currents DC on and that's from the Arlington, really DC draft houses. Me and my friend Elena Torres have done that for over a year. Good time, weekly headliners. This up, and we'll do it.
Sounds good. Elena Torres is also very funny. I've met Elena a couple of times. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with the very funny DC comedian, Petey Steele, on the Maurice Brown Show. Petey, thanks a lot for stopping by and hanging out with us. And I want to have you again in the near future, man. God bless you, man. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Yeah.